Welcome back, my cozy dudes, to a very special Halloween.
It's poopy time.
I mean, technically not, because the first round of filming was all corrupted when I copied it to my computer. I'm having to refilm all of this on the 1st of November. So I faked you out. It's a ruse. It's not Halloween. Hope you're not too busted up over it. What have I been up to? I bought replacement resistive heater pads for the aquarium habitat modules, which have apparently gone bad. I've been heating the water itself as a substitute to keep Jade warm. Although she's getting very old, on top of which she has a tumor about the size of a walnut, which is like 3/4 the size of her body hanging off of her backside, and the vet won't operate. She's too small. They don't operate on very small pets. So I fear she doesn't have long for the world. Consequently, I've taken her out of the habitat and put her in the land cage so she can have more space to roam and be comfortable in what are probably her final days. That doesn't mean I've been idle. I have been waiting on buying the camera for Megahab because COVID has caused a spike in the price of webcams on account of everybody using Zoom for remote working and remote classroom stuff. Cameras that used to cost $40 now cost about $90, so I'm waiting that out. Can't really do much with Mega. Everyone wants to see Megahab progress. I'm aware of that, but I don't really have anywhere to put it. It doesn't fit in the aquarium. I don't live by water yet, so that's a longer term project than I think most of you are hoping. In the near term, I just hope to repair the heaters on the aquarium habitat. Maybe do some other underwater stuff on a small scale. But as winter has just about arrived, I would like to talk a little bit about cold weather gear, gadgets, general side projects I've been doing. Like I added lights to my bag. I don't know if you can see. These adjust when they're actually on my body. It's got the main lamp. It's also got a diffuse light emitter, which can do red light so as not to ruin my night vision. Now, I had a solar bag with lights that I stitched onto it myself before, which you can see here. They look like glowing robot nipples, kind of. I guess you might say that's too high for robot nipples, but you don't know. Robots are different. Their nipples might be higher. However, that bag would only charge USB stuff, 5 volts only. So, of course, because it wouldn't power my 12-volt heated clothing batteries, I couldn't hang on to it. I had to upgrade, and naturally I wanted lights on the new bag as well. I didn't just want to do it the same way. Those other lights were very powerful, but they're very bulky and heavy. These ones are nice and lightweight. They're lipo, so I'm quite pleased with that. Some of you have asked about heated gear, like my jacket and my pants. I'm not actually wearing the heated pants right now because it's an unseasonably warm day at 65 degrees on the 1st of November. So I'm just wearing the jacket. I'll throw up a link to the pants somewhere. I'm pretty sure I sell them through my Amazon affiliate storefront. All the gear I talk about is not sponsored. The only way I can make money off of it is if people buy it through the Amazon storefront. So you can trust that if it's on there, it's not because somebody paid me to put it there. It's because it's actually a kick-ass, very well-designed, powerful, and durable gadget that I've personally tested and will vouch for the quality of. With that said, this is a 5-volt Venture heat jacket. That's Venture as in Venture Bros. It's the Escape 2.0. I don't think they sell it on their website anymore. I think you might be able to still get some back stock on Amazon or maybe Mobile Warming. I halfway recommend it. I recommend it to people who live in very temperate environments that never get very cold, because the upside of 5 volts is that you don't have to buy the proprietary batteries from the company like you do with jackets by Milwaukee, Brunton, Makita, other power tool companies. They want to sell you on their whole ecosystem of power tools, and the heated jacket is like a gateway drug that gets you buying their battery packs. Or maybe they sell you the jacket because you've already got the tools. If you already have the tools, it's not a bad deal. Those are some high capacity battery packs, and that's really what you want. This one runs on any power bank that you already have, which lets you potentially design your own if you get the DIY pack, so that you put whatever cells you want in them, like I do. The issue is capacity. There's a lot of cheap ones out there that I've had before. I've been through a lot of these, so I can speak from experience that you don't want the cheap ones that have the little 2-cell battery packs. Those will last perhaps 3 hours, which is insufficient for any kind of real outing, and it's inconvenient to have to charge them every time you go home anyways. You want at least a 4-cell pack, which will last 5 to 6 hours on the high setting, and you need it to last that long on high because this doesn't get very warm. That's the downside of a 5-volt jacket. It gets warm, but not really warm. It gets not cold, let's put it that way. You'll never be cold in this jacket. And the appeal of it is that it's very thin, it's not very bulky, but you get the heating ability of a much bulkier winter jacket. And of course you can use any battery pack you want. But it has to be at the highest setting, because only the highest setting really does anything noticeable. I would actually recommend to anybody who lives anywhere that it actually snows, like not California or Arizona or any place like that, upgrade to the 12-volt gear. Especially, I recommend the dual power jacket and pants from Mobile Warming. That's the company name, not Venture Heat like this jacket, different company. Mobile Warming, and they primarily sell heated motorcycle gear. Now the appeal of the dual power gear is not only that it's 12 volt, so it's much more powerful and gets much hotter. I can only generally stand the middle setting on those. What you want excess power. You want power in reserve. So when you're stuck in a situation like I was when I got trapped halfway up Mount Hood because a blizzard struck right when I wanted to go to the lodge, you want extra heating ability for when you need it. But the other feature is that the dual power thing, what they mean by that is that you can plug it into your motorcycle or quad or whatever vehicle you have that has a 12-volt socket, and it will run off of the 12 volts from your vehicle until you get off and disconnect, at which point it switches over to battery power and then runs off the battery power until you plug it back into the vehicle. So if you have a motorcycle or something, especially a motorcycle, because in that case you're going to need extra warming capability as you're going to have a lot of wind cooling effect moving at high speeds down the highway. Now the mobile warming packs are proprietary, which I generally warn against, but they're basically just power banks. You can also plug USB stuff into them. They're $40 for about 60 watt hours, which is a great deal, which is why I bend the rules a little bit in their case. This backpack actually will charge 12 volt stuff. Those batteries charge off of a 12 volt barrel connector, which is one of 2 standards I have now based my life around. I tried to keep it to 1 standard. I tried. I had the solar backpack before that would only charge USB stuff, so I tried to see how much stuff can I do off of USB. 1 standard to rule them all. But there was a limit to that. I could charge everything up to the power banks for my jacket slowly, but nothing beyond that. And that was a problem because I wanted to boil water portably without using fuel. And to do that, you have to go up to 12 volts. So this one has a user adjustable lithium polymer battery pack where you can set it up to 19 volts. Anything between, I think, 12 and 19 volts. So it will charge the 12 volt stuff. So I can charge my pants batteries off of here. I can charge my jacket batteries off of here. I can still do everything from the backpack. Now the mobile warming pants are $2.99. You can sometimes find deals for as little as $2.59. The jackets are generally around the same price, although I found them for as little as $240. It's pricey, but it's really worth it. If you think about how much a really nice, like goose down winter jacket normally costs, it's in the same ballpark. But these are just nice to have. Having a little button here where you can adjust how much heat you have, like climate control for your garments. It's like a wearable shelter. It's really hard to put a price on, but about $250 to $300 per garment is the industry standard. Not for this jacket. For the USB ones, it's cheaper. If you buy without a power bank, like I did, because I've already got power banks, which you have to do by phone, by the way. Otherwise, it comes with one by default. This was about $180, which I think is a lot more reasonable for a wider selection of people. Now I'd like to talk about another gadget, which is nice to have in the cold winter months, which is the water boiling solution I alluded to earlier. Yes, this is a thermos, which is already excellent at keeping hot liquids hot, but it's a battery operated thermos. I don't know if you can see that, the little light bar. It's the Cauldron, Cauldr Again, they're not sponsoring me. I just fucking love this gadget. It's about 129 new, 99 if it's refurbished. I got mine refurbished. It will boil water once per battery charge, but not off of the default battery. You have to get a double-sized battery for that. It takes a lot of energy to boil water. It's one of the most energy-intensive tasks that we regularly do, which is why calories as a measure of energy are based on how much energy it takes to boil a given amount of water. Just to give you an idea of the challenge level. That's the brick wall I ran into when I tried to do everything off USB. You're not going to boil water off of USB. You have to go higher voltage and higher wattage than that. And this does optionally do that if you get the double-sized battery, which brings me to the next feature. It's completely modular and possible to disassemble into its constituent parts, which I really appreciate. I'm kind of a fanatic about modularity and repairability. If this part goes bad, which is probably the part that's going to go bad eventually, the heater, you can just order this part. You don't have to replace the whole thing. You can just order the individual part. And there's another module, which is the same size and shape, that goes in the same place between the battery and the cup, that has a blender blade on it. So if you want to, you can buy a separate module, plug it in here, and suddenly you have a portable blender. It's very tactical. I mean, it's modular in the way that rifles typically are. It's the Fire 2.0 is the model. Cauldron's the brand. Fire 2.0 is the model. The Fire 1.0 did not have the screen down here showing you the current temperature. You had to use the app. It is Bluetooth compatible. It has an app, so if you want to set a timer or adjust temperature remotely from your phone, you can do that. Just to give you an idea of what a good value this is 16 ounces. This default battery will keep hot liquids hot for 10 hours. The extended one will keep it hot for 20. And that's for 99 bucks refurbished. For the same price, you can buy an Ember, which is the heated coffee cup sold through Starbucks, which is 8 ounces and has a 1 hour battery life. So that's 10 times less battery and half the capacity for the same price, which is what you get when you buy something that is sold through Starbucks, I guess. That's the brand tax. But I love this thing. I recommend it to anybody. I don't only use it for coffee. I use it for soup. But I gotta warn you, it doesn't deal well with thick, like dense liquids. If it's too dense, it can't circulate heat. However this thing works, this is an amazing heater. It heats incredibly rapidly. It needs to be able to circulate naturally with, I think, convection currents or something inside of the vessel. If it's too thick, it can't do that, and the stuff on the bottom just burns and solidifies. So I've had good luck with any kind of beverage. I've had good luck with broth. The thickness of the soups have gone up to bisque, like lobster bisque, but anything denser than that I've not had good results with. That's enough for the Cauldron Fire 2.0 heated thermos. You can also buy this through the Amazon affiliate link down in the video description. I should probably do the bag as well on here. The bag is a Voltaic, I don't know if you can see the brand name, Voltaic Array. They sell a couple different bags. One of them is, I think, around 100 and something, 120. This one used to be $299 when I bought it. It's since fallen in price to 200 something. It's 10 watts, which is about the most you can get on a bag still. It will charge a 88 watt-hour lithium polymer battery here, which outputs 12 volts, 16 volts, or 19 volts, depending on what you set with this button. It'll also do USB-C and regular USB, so you can charge multiple devices at a time with multiple standards, which is great for someone like me. It's kind of at the higher end. It's a heavy-duty option. There are certainly cheaper solar bags. I sell a cheaper solar bag through my Amazon affiliates for about 50 bucks, which has the same amount of solar, it just only does USB. This is the only bag I know of that will charge a laptop. Basically, that's why I was willing to drop that much money on it. So go to Voltaic Systems, I believe, is the website, and check out their options. They sell the panels separately along with the battery if that's all you want. They sell bags with less solar if you don't need to do a laptop and you're content with phones or tablets. Great company, very durable product. It's another one of those companies that I personally swear by. So it's got the Handad seal of approval. What more do you need? Another common request that I get all the time is, tell us about your e-bike. You always show off your e-bike, you never say what's inside of it. Fair enough. This is a custom build. You can buy pre-builts that look just like this. They're all based around the same part selection. This is This frame is really the part that pops out the most. This is an Enduro frame, Enduro. You can just Google Enduro e-bike frames and you'll find it. It was $500 when I bought it. It's substantially less now. It's really for people who want a big, heavy battery and don't want the bike to fall apart. Because that's something a lot of custom builders don't think about. They get a big, heavy battery. They don't think about the fact their bike was not made to go those speeds or to carry that much weight. And it shakes itself apart over time. So although this borders on the absurd, it looks kind of like a motorcycle or a dirt bike now. And you do get more attention from cops or joggers or whatnot when you're riding it, depending on what state you live in. It's worth it. It's worth it with the shocks. These are D&M shocks. You need full suspension with a bike this heavy, and you also can't put it on a bike rack. So I would actually not recommend a bike like this for most people. If you want to ride a variety of trails that you don't live near, I'd recommend a folding electric fat bike and just let the fat tire be your suspension. But if you're determined, I recommend you go to lunacycle.com. I think they sell those frames. I know they sell the motor, which is a Magic Pi version 5. And what's special about this is that it has the motor controller built in, which is good for temperate states, not so good for very hot states, because all the extra electronics packed together with the motor overheats more easily. But it does have regen. It has regen braking. This is officially this is 1 kilowatt because that's the legal limit in my state, and that's all I'm going to say about that. The brakes are Avid, I believe, BB5, BB7, I think BB5. The brake cables are Shimano. Every part of this I built myself, which I don't know if I'd recommend it or not. It was a huge ordeal, but at the same time, now I know every nut and bolt on this bike, so I never need to take it anywhere to get serviced, which is good because I can't get it serviced anywhere. They generally only service bikes from the brands they're licensed to service. So if I brought this in, they would take one look at it and say, nope, turn around, go service this yourself, which is what I do. And I don't have to spend money on having someone else fix it, because if you build something completely from the ground up, then you know how to fix any part of it. And now for the inside. Now I could have spent the money that I spent building this bike, which is about $2,500, on a Suron, which I'll show here just for reference. That's the currently big popular pseudo e-bike, dirt bike thing a lot of people are buying. But if you look at it, it's got a lot of custom plastic parts on the fairings and shit. That thing would be a nightmare to take apart and to do your own work on. Not this. This is very sort of industrial, utilitarian. Everything pops off easily for easy servicing, which is what I wanted. Everything in here is by me. I did this. I didn't have to weld a battery box because the triangle bag that came with this triangle pack battery, which is one of the shapes you can get e-bike batteries in, happened to fit perfectly into here with a little bit of foam so it doesn't damage itself bouncing around against the frame. Here's the charger. It's an internal charger. I don't have to carry a charger with me. I can just plug in the female end of an extension cord to the port on the other side, which I'll show you in a moment. I thought it'd get too hot in here. It doesn't really. On hot days it struggles a little bit, but it'll turn itself off as needed to cool down if that happens. Here's the accessories battery, which is a USB power bank that plugs in with a adjacent lead when I'm charging this thing. This powers the heated grips, which are nice for winter. It powers the phone charger up there, which used to be wireless until the circuit for that broke. I'm going to have to repair that. The light and all the other basically accessories that are the wrong voltage to run directly off the battery. If I wanted to go through the trouble, I could get a step-down converter, put it in line between the battery and the controller, and run everything off of that. But I generally don't want to. I don't want the voltage dip. This is a 52 volt system, by the way, which I think I already said, but I do recommend it. It's popular these days over 48 volts because you're basically overvolting a 48 volt motor slightly, which is fine if you don't live in a hot environment. If you do, I wouldn't recommend that. It'll just overheat faster. 52 volts into a 48 volt motor gives you a lot more pickup, a lot more power, and it's generally safe to do. People have had good results with it. This is 1.1 kilowatt hours, which was big when I bought it. It was an $800 battery when I bought it. It's a lot cheaper now. Damn that Gigafactory bringing prices down. I guess that's good for everybody but me. Batteries for e-bikes go up to like 3-4 kilowatt hours now, though, which is insane because this one gets me 50 miles without pedaling at about 28 miles per hour top speed, whereas 3 of them would not quite get you 150. It doesn't stack so evenly because the added weight eats up some of those miles. But that's absurd. Already 50 miles is so much power that I don't really have a voltmeter. I don't need to monitor my consumption because I'm never going to use all of this in a day. It just goes all day, and then I park it in the garage and I charge it overnight. Now, the other nice thing about having a bike you can open up and get into the battery like this is that you can buy from Lunicycle, the company that hand builds these batteries, by the way, a Luna brand portable air compressor to refill the tires as needed. This thing is unique in that it's a 52 volt compressor. It will run directly off of this battery, so I don't need any other power source, and I don't need to hand pump my tires. If you have self-sealing tires or a tire patch kit or a spare tire, like a tube on you, then you're set. You can do repairs in the field, and this only makes it more easy and convenient. If there was space in here to stash this thing, I would. I almost think there could be. I'll look at that at some point. But just having this with you in your backpack can really save your bacon and make doing repairs out when you're out riding that much easier. And that's Lunicycle.com. I heartily recommend them. Their prices are extremely fair for the capacities of battery they sell. They sell all types of batteries: triangle packs, shark packs, cube packs, 36 volts all the way up to 72 volts, or like higher, maybe 80. I haven't checked recently. They hand build their packs out of top quality cells. If you buy an e-bike battery pack from China, it's going to have generic Chinesium cells in it. Not Lunicycle. Lunicycle battery packs are hand built out of Samsung, Panasonic, sometimes Sanyo cells. Top of the line. This one has NCR 186050Bs in it, which are my solid choice. They have different cell types that they'll offer you for maximizing energy density versus power density. Power density being how much you can pull out of it, how fast, in case you prioritize top speed over range, or the reverse. I am not being sponsored by them. I've just had extraordinarily good experiences with them in terms of the quality of their product and the quality of their customer service. They really did a great job walking me through installing everything. They have guides with pictures they link you to. Send me a free chain. Great guys, passionate about what they do. That's Lunicycle.com. Don't order from anyone else if you're going to build your own custom bike. Here's the handlebar cluster. We've got the phone holder. I want to plug it in. I used to have a wireless key charger here with a coil. That broke. I had to pry it off. I'm probably going to buy a new one. I just harvested the old one out of a charging mat. I'll do the same the second time. GoPro mount. Used to have my light here. It wasn't that great. Anyway, I have a replacement light up here. Water bottle, obviously the hamster cockpit, which no e-bike is complete without. I don't have them along with me today, but I can take a little buddy for a ride, which for the hamster must seem like warp speed. But oh yeah, the socket. Socket is a standard weatherized outdoor NEMA 110 volt 30 amp socket. I don't know how much of that it really uses. That lets me carry the charger with me, not have to put it in my backpack, not be able to forget it. I'll be able to charge anywhere. There's an extension cord. It's extremely handy. I recommend the same setup. This is a standard switch connected to a relay. You cannot, it turns out, just put a switch in between the battery and the controller like you'd think you can. There's too much voltage. It'll melt the fucking wires. So you need a relay that goes in between the battery and the controller, and then you have wires that come from the relay to the switch. It's not an ignition. Nothing is actually being ignited, obviously. It's just a switch. I have a sticker here to advertise that it's satellite tracked by a Spot GPS tracker. I recommend that. Even just the sticker will generally put people off from stealing the bike, because they've seen those TV specials where news crews track down stolen bikes using GPS. I actually found my bike halfway out of the open garage once. Somebody had been in the process of stealing it, but given it up once the outdoor lights hit the sticker and they saw this. So very powerful deterrent, even if you don't have the tracker. Just that's called security theater. Very basic strategy for preventing bike theft. Not so great with these thumb screws though. These things that you can. It's extremely handy for modularity and repairability, which I swear by, and ease of servicing it out in the field. But anybody can come up and take the side of your bike off and lift out your batteries. So something to keep an eye on. You might want to replace these with something that you need a tool for. That's the only concern I have about these. Otherwise, they're great. So that's the bike portion of the video. So what's new in the undersea world? Quite a lot, actually. There is a new gigantic habitat being built, potentially. There's actually quite a lot of development in the undersea habitat space right now. You may have heard, probably from me, about Biosub 3 by Lloyd Godson, or the habitat planned for construction by Scott Hissell of the Undersea Voyager project. But both of those are relatively modest tabs, 1 and 2 man affairs. The one I'm talking about is Proteus, shown here. I'm going to show a couple of different angles, actually. This is a project of Fabien Cousteau, the grandson of legendary, iconic undersea explorer and pioneer Jacques Cousteau, who, as you may recall, was responsible for the Conshelf series of habitats, perhaps most famously Conshelf 2, seen here, featured in the documentary Le Monde Sans Soleil, or The World Without Sun. It's notable in that not only is it the largest habitat, roughly the size of a 2-story suburban house, it will also be the first and only habitat to have an attached moon pool. You may have seen in Conshelf 2, here again, I'll show you here, there was a detached moon pool module which the submersible, called the diving saucer, could surface inside of for replenishment of oxygen and absorbent and recharging the batteries, and of course affecting repairs, which is invaluable because you can do all your stuff you normally need a ship for from below the waterline, avoiding completely the storms which frequently imperil submersible operations out at sea. That required, however, that in order to get to the moon pool module, you had to suit up, scuba dive from the lodge, the Starfish Lodge seen here, from there to the moon pool module, then desuit, get in regular clothing, dry off, get in the sub, do whatever you're going to do in the sub, come back, surface, get out, re-suit up in your scuba gear, then scuba dive back to... Obviously, it's not ideal, but Proteus has an attached moon pool module, completely solving this problem. You get out of the sub and you're already in the main habitat. It is not modular, unfortunately. We still have not made that leap from single module to multi-module as we have in space stations since the late 70s. But it's really a question of how many people you need in one place underwater long term. Aquarius is a 6-man habitat, but as you can see here, those 6 people are in very cramped quarters. It's about the size of a Greyhound bus, and I wouldn't really call that a 6-man habitat. They just managed to put 6 people in there. Proteus is 12-man, and when they say a 12-man habitat, they mean housing 12 people in style and comfort. Everybody in the habitat has their own individual residence. They don't all bunk in the same room. Everybody has their own big window in their little apartment pod. Potentially a disabled marine biologist will be able to get down by submarine as they're not able to scuba dive, which was also the rationale behind the inclusion of a docking collar in Hydrolab, seen here. The only other habitat besides Conshelf 2 that was ever able to receive a submersible, although it did it by docking collar, not by moon pool. There are pros and cons to each approach. The docking collar is less demanding in terms of space. You don't need this giant air-filled space to surface it inside of, but of course you can't surface the sub to repair it either. So Fabien went with the moon pool design, the attached moon pool, and I don't blame him. It's exciting stuff. This is going to be larger even than Tektite, seen here, or than Conshelf 3, seen here, the former kings of the largest single habitat volume to date. Proteus should be a whole nother, it's just the next generation, the next logical step in undersea habitation and marine science. It will be at a depth of about 63 to 65 feet, just like Aquarius, so that the moon pool can be at a depth of 50 feet, which is the maximum depth it can be, such that the interior air pressure is not so high that oxygen toxicity becomes a problem. That's the limit where you can still use regular atmospheric air pumped down by a compressor, rather than having to do expensive recapture and recycling of hydrox, heliox, nitrox, or any of those other exotic gas mixtures. Because of that, the compressor for Proteus will be fully powered by green energy sources. It will primarily be an OTEC column, that's oceanic thermal energy conversion. We've talked about that before. Here's a picture. Basically a Stirling engine that exploits the temperature differential between the surface of the sea and below the thermocline, where there's an abrupt drop in temperature. To supplement that, there will be a wind turbine atop the buoy, there will be solar panels, so they should have a good diversity of energy sources to ensure that the energy never stops flowing. That's for heat, that's for light, that is for pumping air down, it's for heating water, for things like showers. Like Aquarius, they're likely to have a large bank of backup air cylinders on the seabed. Aquarius has some crazy amount, like 2 weeks worth of backup air, just in case they need to hang tight and be rescued. But that's in an emergency situation where they won't have power, they'll just have a very long duration supply of fresh air. So I don't think even with renewable power that there's any danger that air will ever stop flowing. We'll have to see whether it's a truly reliable source of electricity for this state-of-the-art underwater facility, though. So next in undersea news is Project Natick, which Microsoft has finally pulled out of the water after I think a 2 or 3 year trial run. Here it was when it was new and pretty and pristine. Here it is being pulled out of the water, covered in gunk and marine biofilm that has grown on it over these past 3 years. They found, unexpectedly perhaps for some, it's 8 times more reliable than server farms on land. That's what Project Natick is. It's an undersea server farm. It's unmanned. Perhaps that's why it's more reliable, because people don't get in there to trip over cords and things like that. But it also has an inert atmosphere. It is an inert nitrogen atmosphere because there's no humans inside, and that really helps. Not having reactive gases helps more than you'd think with long-term reliability of computing equipment. So this is turning out to be a winning idea. Putting stuff underwater in general, like with Project Nemo, the underwater farming project being done in, I think, Italy right now, has more merits than you'd think, especially for server farms where the single greatest expense is keeping them cool. Underwater, you're surrounded by free coolant. You have zero cooling costs. So that alone, even if it wasn't for the improved reliability, would probably financially justify the project. And they do intend to scale it way up now that they've proven the concept. Here's a artist's rendition of a very large array of Natick-style undersea server capsules, providing cloud services to densely populated coastal cities, which is their envisioned use case for the technology. Now on to Japanese underwater mining, which has been going on in some form since 2016 when the first tests began. Not using robots at that time, but dredge pumps to suction up rare earth mineral rich mud from the seafloor surrounding Japan. Japan has been searching very intently for an alternative to getting the rare earth metals from China for perfectly understandable geopolitical reasons. We would also like an alternative to China for those metals, given that our relationship with that country seems to be souring as of late, and they're currently by far and away the dominant, I think the only major source of rare earth metals in the world. I don't have the figures in front of me as I'm using my phone to film, but it's between 250 and 450 years supply of each of the metals they estimate. These are metals like dysprosium, neodymium, yttrium, the metals that we rely on for our personal electronics like this phone, like this bike, electric cars, the motors, the batteries, solar panels. All this green tech we're transitioning to is entirely dependent on rare earth minerals. So to have found such an enormous supply in the waters of a much friendlier country that we have a much better relationship with is good news for Japan and good news for the US. Those figures, by the way, are calculated global supplies for hundreds of years. It's such a long time scale, it's almost irrelevant to talk about it in terms of being a limited resource. It's functionally infinite. I hate doing air quotes, but it is. This is spectacular news. That's trillions of dollars worth of metal, and it's going to keep us in rare earth metals for basically the foreseeable future. Here is a picture of the robot underwater. Another underwater picture. Here's what it looks like dry out of water prior to being deployed. Not as big as the robots being used by, is it Nautilus or Neptune? One of those two. An American mining company seen here, which I think I've shown you before on the ocean farming video. I should just do a general oceanic resource development video one of these days and compile all this information into one resource. Well, that's all the news from the Blue Frontier that's fit to report on. You stay cozy. This is Hamdad and my beautiful, perfect son, Skelmo, signing off.